Well, welcome to the Top Gun Show. Today I'd like to welcome Jaime Leverton, the CEO of Hut8 Mining, to the show. Hut8 Mining is one of North America's oldest, largest, and most innovative Bitcoin miners in the world. Jaime has had a very impressive career as she has held leadership positions with IBM, Bell, BlackBerry, National Bank of Canada, as well as a few others in the telecommunications field. I'm trying to keep her incredible resume short because she is here to educate us about Bitcoin. Jaime, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Steve. It's great to be here.
I'm fascinated by your company and about Bitcoin. What exactly is Bitcoin? Because there's so many misconceptions and fears. It's drug dealer money. I mean, you name it. You've probably heard it all. What is Bitcoin?
I've definitely heard it all. I think the easiest way to think about Bitcoin is by equating it to gold. It's essentially digital gold. That's in its simplest form. But really what Bitcoin is a digitally native store of value. It is unlike any other store of value in the history of the world because it is digitally native. It is completely decentralized. It's borderless. Therefore, it's not controlled by any single entity, by any government. It is, by its creation, deflationary. And by that, I mean there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin in production. You can't create new Bitcoin. You can't create Bitcoin faster. We know the last Bitcoin will come into existence in the year 2140. And therefore, as a store of value, it is unlike anything the world has ever seen. It is naturally secured because it is distributed on a peer-to-peer ledger. It's divisible. It's innately portable, again, because it's entirely digital. Obviously, I'm very passionate about Bitcoin, but that is what Bitcoin is. And if you want to do a really deep dive on Bitcoin, there's tons of great podcasts out there. Robert Breedlove does an amazing one on what is money. And that goes all the way down the rabbit hole on what is money and how does Bitcoin fit into it.
That's fascinating. I mean, you've answered a lot of my questions just here in the intro, so that's really cool. One question I have in mind, though, is like, how safe is it? Is it prone to being hacked or stolen more so than the other forms of investment?
Absolutely not. So the way Bitcoin people quote unquote lose their Bitcoin is because they've lost their password to the place where they've stored their Bitcoin. But Bitcoin itself, because it's distributed on a peer-to-peer ledger, every Bitcoin transaction is recorded on the network and is inherently traceable in some form.
Okay, so that rules out the drug dealers and those types of people that don't want to be traced, right?
So I read a stat recently, and it said that 0.04% of transactions done on the Bitcoin network are for illicit activities, and that's compared to just under 3% for illicit activities that are done using traditional fiat or cash-based currencies.
Okay, so it's safe and it's not as non-hackable as you can get as far as a currency is concerned. How liquid is Bitcoin?
Bitcoin just exceeded a $1 trillion market cap. It trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in every corner of the universe. I can't think of anything more liquid than that.
Wow, that's incredible. That's really incredible. I had no idea it had grown to that and that kind of popularity. Okay, so let's talk about Hut8 Mining. That's your company that you're leading. What makes you attractive for a Bitcoin investor? That's the first question. And then how can I invest in Bitcoin? I mean, do I find it on my 401k options drop down, or what does Hut8 Mining do, and how can I invest?
Right. So Bitcoin as an asset itself, you can't add into your 401k. However, Hut8 Mining is an equity. We trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange and we trade over the counter in the US. We were actually the 11th most actively traded equity via OTCQX in the United States last year. And we because we are a normal equity, that gives you exposure to Bitcoin, because that is our core business, is the creation of new Bitcoin through our mining activities, our Bitcoin mining activities. But we also hold a significant portion of the Bitcoin that we've mined on our balance sheet. So we've got over 3,200 Bitcoin on our balance sheet, and we are creating new Bitcoin on a daily basis. So again, we trade as a normal equity. You can put Hut8 equity into your 401k, and that gives you exposure to Bitcoin as an asset class, but without having to purchase the actual hard asset that is Bitcoin.
Well, so you're really like a financial wizard when it comes to Bitcoin. I would rather invest in buying your stock than go try to buy a Bitcoin myself. And you mentioned to me that there's advantages of that. If it drops, you kind of protect it a little bit more, or if it goes up, investing in Hut8 actually goes up a bit higher. Is that true?
Well, it depends on the market cycle. It's like any kind of, think about a junior gold miner and how a junior gold miner would perform. That's a similar behavior that you would see in a Bitcoin mining company such as Hut8 Mining. But again, in the case of Hut8, we're not just mining Bitcoin; we also hold it on our balance sheet. So that gives a little bit more alpha or protection, as it were, because that Bitcoin on balance sheet was actually what we used during the last bear market for Bitcoin. We were able to use the Bitcoin on our balance sheet as collateral to get a loan when it was otherwise very difficult for Bitcoin miners to raise capital. And then during this current bull market for Bitcoin, we were able to raise equity, pay the loan off in full. And it really did reinforce that keeping that position of Bitcoin on our balance sheet is a very good strategy. And it's one that we continue to really believe in.
Well, I think it's cool because, we haven't talked about this, but there's the added cool factor benefit. Like if I go to a cocktail party and somebody says, "What do you do?" I can go, "I'm a Bitcoin miner," right? That'll get me a free drink.
It'll get you a lot of questions, I can promise you that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Jaime, I know you're a big fan of the Top Gun Show, and that I know there are millions and millions of people watching this right now. Tell the viewers a little known, fun, or interesting fact about yourself.
I think one of the fun and interesting facts that I have my parents to thank for is that I was actually named after the Bionic Woman, Jaime Sommers. And I think that kind of predisposed me to a very tech-focused career path.
Well, you kind of look like her a little bit. When you run, does it go?
No, and I'm much slower as well. Very embarrassingly so.
That was all done with camera. She's not that fast, I'm sure. I don't even know if she's alive now.
I don't know either. I'll have to Google it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jaime, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. Thanks for bringing some very interesting content to the Top Gun Show viewers.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And thanks for watching, everybody.